in the types of tools and equipment that you might need to use to get started, what's out there, what's important, what isn't. And then I'll actually show you a couple examples of how we've used video here in my role at Athene, various ways, just to hopefully maybe spark some inspiration or help you consider other ideas and ways that you can potentially incorporate video. And then the last thing I'm going to do is actually go into Camtasia, and I'm going to show you a really fun little video editing technique that's actually pretty easy, and that is overdubbing audio and creating multi-camera videos. The technique is pretty simple. I'm going to do it in Camtasia, although whatever non-linear editing tool you use, aside from maybe iMovie, I don't know if iMovie, it's very intuitive in that, but a Premiere Pro and After Effects, Camtasia, it all is kind of the same process. So let's dig right in. And I want to start out looking at why video is important. So one of the things that you did, or one of the breakout questions that we had this morning was, what's the last thing you used a video to learn, or you wanted to learn but you used the video to learn it? And TechSmith, and they're the software company that makes Camtasia, they make Snagit, they ran a survey across their user base. And one of the things that stood out to me on that survey was that 52% of survey respondents said that they'd watch 2 instructional or informational videos every week. That is mind-blowing to me. So we are turning to video to learn at least 2 times a week. And that to me is like just eye-opening. So if we're doing that in our personal lives, why are we not doing that same thing in our professional lives as it relates to learning? The other thing that I saw that really stood out to me was a study that was done basically like the neuroscience. And this study says that the human brain processes imagery 60,000 times faster than text. So if I'm simply reading something on screen versus like seeing something on screen, my brain processes the seeing 60,000 times faster. Again, if it speeds up our brains and able to process and comprehend things, again, why are we not using video more frequently to do this? And the last thing that stood out to me is a study that I found that reported that the average amount of time people have to spend on learning every week is 1% of their time. So if you work a 40-hour work week, that's 24 minutes that we have available on average to spend learning every week. So how, if we have a limited amount of time to spend learning and we can't go out and take a big, giant 2-hour course, we need to get content in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. How do we do that? And how do we maximize that? And video is a great solution for doing that. I also went on an epic quest to try and find a big list of all the different ways that you could use video in your organization. And I came across a study or a report from Vidyard. So Vidyard is a software tool, a video software tool that is like sales enablement. But they essentially surveyed the industry and asked, what are the most common types of video that you use? So what you're seeing on screen right now is the results of that. So 63% of respondents said they were doing product demos. I equate product demos to like a screen recording or a how-to type of video. And how-to is kind of in there as well at 51%. But you can kind of see down the line of how people are using video. So we're heavily weighted in the explainer world and like the screen recording or product demo type of video. For me, when I was working in a training development role, 90% of the videos that I made were in the top 3 tier there: product demos, how-to, explainers. As I've transitioned into more an organizational development type of role, the way that I'm using video has actually shifted a little bit, and I'm using it more for maybe testimonials, storytelling, and internal communications. So how we use it is obviously going to depend on your role, but there are lots of different ways that we are using video. So we have some people, a majority of our people here today are either currently making videos or consider themselves seasoned pros. So I'm curious if you could drop in the chat for me, what are the different ways, like as you look at this list, the types of videos that you are making most frequently? Are they in that product demo, explainer? Are they more communications? So drop that in the chat. How are you using video today? So when you say training videos, Riley, what do you mean?
I guess I could just unmute, it'd probably be easier. So with us being a training company, we do video libraries that go along with our in-classroom courses. So it's just like a 3 to 5 minute video. There's 6 videos for each section of the training, just a kind of brief overview. It can be used on its own, or it can be used alongside with training to go out every week after a course. So they,
Yep.
just an update, and they can use it to interact with their team.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, in the chat, we're getting a lot of how-tos is what I'm seeing as the dominating response. Explainer videos, how-tos on here. So the whole moral of this entire story is that there are lots of different ways to use video, and it's going to depend on essentially the intent and what message you have to share. So what I want to look at, whoa, if my mouse will come over, there we go, is a little bit of the getting started. So this is going to be a down and dirty, different tools and equipment that you might want to use to get started with your video production. So we start with a camera. How are we going to actually capture the video? And what I love is that technology today is absolutely brilliant. You have an HD camera attached to you almost at all times. Maybe it's in your pocket or your purse, or however you carry your phone. This little tiny device does what professional video cameras would do 10 years ago, and you can all do it in the palm of your hand. So the only thing you really need to get started or to create high quality videos is a mobile device or a tablet. If you are kind of stepping up into those next levels, you have DSLR cameras. So a DSLR camera would be like, you typically will purchase the body of the camera, and then you have interchangeable lenses that can go with it. Or maybe you have kind of an entry point camera is just one lens attached to the camera. DSLR cameras are great. They have a ton of different options. Professional grade cameras, this is what I would consider like maybe a handheld recorder or more of an actual video camera looking thing. They tend to be, you can get some entry point prices pretty easily, or in the, maybe $500 range or so. And then obviously going up into the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars for the fanciest cameras. But really all you need is an iPhone. If you got a phone, an Android, whatever it is, this is all you need to cut a really nice video. But if you want to take your video to the next level, you're going to want to have a good way to capture the audio. In my opinion, the quality of your video, the majority of it stems from the quality of the visual and the quality of the audio. So how can you capture that? A lavalier mic. So if you're like the clip-on mics that you see, you can get pretty cheap. They make a lot of different options for them. So you can buy ones that just plug into a lightning bolt on or a USB-C on an Apple device. Or they have some with 3.5 millimeter jacks that you can just plug in if you have a headphone jack in your phone or whatever. They make a lot of mics that come with receiver packs that require XLR cables that might go into a DSLR or professional grade camera. So they make options obviously all across the board. I also found out, I was watching, was it Welcome to Wrexham? I think, is that the show? Basically, where these two American, Ryan Reynolds and Rob, can't ever remember his last name, buy a soccer club in England. And Ryan Reynolds was overdubbing audio on a movie that he was making, and he had like it looked like a little poofy microphone that was plugged into his phone. I was like, what is that thing? And then I found it on the internet. It's a $145 Shure microphone, but it captures crystal clear audio directly into your phone, which I thought was super cool. So lots of different options there. A shotgun mic is another great thing for recording maybe a bigger area, or you have multiple people maybe in a video, or you want to record some room noise. So shotgun mics, like, the big fuzzy microphones that maybe somebody's holding on a pole and they're, dangling or suspending over somebody. Not necessarily required for anything, but there are some really good options available there. And the last thing is a condenser microphone. So a condenser microphone is what you would typically see at like a music recording studio. So I use a Blue Yeti condenser microphone, and this is a USB mic, so there's really not a lot of setup that's required for it. It's really just a plug and play thing. But I love this microphone because it's super versatile. It's got multiple input settings, so I can use it as an area mic or a shotgun mic, or I can use it as a true condenser mic where it's only capturing audio coming directly in the front of it. But these are really handy, nifty little tools that you could get for relatively cheap. I think the Yeti is like $140 or something like that, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty inexpensive. So we've got our video, we've got our camera, or we've got our audio. Now, how are we going to put it together? So there are a lot of different audio or video production tools out there to use. My go-to today is Camtasia. My go-to 8-10 years ago was the Adobe Creative Suite, so Premiere Pro and After Effects. When I worked at KCCI TV, I used a program called Avid. They all essentially do the same thing. It's just the amount of bells and whistles they have. The reason that I use Camtasia more than I use the Adobe Creative Suite nowadays is because I typically don't have as much time to invest in the video as I used to. So I need to do it as quickly and as effectively, efficiently as I possibly can. And Camtasia, for me and my workflows, allows me to do that a little more quickly. Audio recording is another really big piece. And so audio recording software like an Adobe Audition, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, you can buy GarageBand is a free app that exists on iPads and iPhones. You can either make songs or you can record audio into it. I use Adobe Audition for the most part because I have the Adobe Creative Suite, and it does everything that I need it to do and more. There's also free options like a program called Audacity. If anybody's ever used Audacity, that is an open source free download. And it's come a long ways since it first hit the market a number of years ago. But if you're looking for a free option, that's a really good one. And then last but not least is animation programs. We talked about Beyond a little bit earlier. There are some other animation tools out there. I think you can do some animation in Movely. There's a company called Sparkle that does like whiteboard animations. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff out there. I've been using Beyond since probably about 2014, 2015. So that's the tool that I'm most familiar with and what I use for most of my animated video. And I really love it because it's web-based and it's super point and click. Their customer support is awesome. And they're always adding regular updates to things. So if you got a camera, a microphone, or software, the last thing is any accessories that you might need. So a tripod is going to be critical. The more that you can get steady video, the better. And a tripod obviously accomplishes that. You can buy tripod heads for mobile devices, for tablets, for cameras. I mean, all sorts of things. You can do them usually pretty cheap. A gimbal, if you're going to shoot a lot of B-roll, a gimbal or a Steadicam is a really good investment. My little brother does some social media video for various companies, and he bought himself a gimbal for his iPhone, and it just electronically basically keeps the camera balanced. So when he's shooting video going all over the place, his camera isn't moving. So it looks really, really good after the fact. So, and you can get those, I think they start for mobile devices around $100, something like that. They're relatively inexpensive too. And then last but not least is a good light kit. Ring lights, you see those all over the place. Those are really good options. Some studio lights, or just like studio light does the job as well. So to be able to create really good balance in the lighting. If you're shooting video and there's maybe a bright light over on one side of somebody's face and so their other side is all shadowed, a light's going to do a really good job of balancing that. You can fix a little bit of it in post-production, but it's very difficult. The better you can get it up front on the front end, the better it's going to be on the back end. So if you're just getting into the game, or you're balling on a budget, this would be my recommendation. So just use a mobile device or your phone or tablet. Get yourself a nice condenser mic like this Blue Yeti. Camtasia is a good option. It's about $300 for a one-time download. Get a good audio recording program. So whether that's Adobe Audition, GarageBand, Audacity, whatever it is, but something that you can capture audio in, and then buy yourself a tripod. So all in, you're probably looking at like $500 or less for all of these, if you don't currently have them, or maybe even less than that if you already have some of these and you're looking to take it to the next level. If you want to go even bigger, my recommendations would be to upgrade to a DSLR, a professional grade camera. If you really want to fine tune the settings when you're recording, those cameras are really good for that. I'd say for the vast majority of folks, unless you're cutting video for a living, you don't necessarily need one. But buy yourself a lavalier mic. Invest in an upgraded recording software. So whether that's Adobe Premiere Pro or After Effects or something like that. Final Cut's another one you might use. Get yourself an animation program. Beyond runs about $650 a year for an individual subscription, or you can pay that monthly as well. And then invest in a light kit. That's probably the next biggest thing that I would recommend if you're looking to spend a little bit more money.
Hey, Adam, do you have a recommendation for a green screen?
I don't. When I worked at Nationwide, we bought one that essentially was 2 tripods, a big green sheet, and that was it. And I can't even remember how much that cost, but it pretty much did the job for us because we also had some lights as well. The key with the green screen, I mean, you can make a green screen out of pretty much anything, a blanket, if you want to. But the key to that effect is the lighting and the balance of the lighting, because you got to make sure that the lighting is really even. There's no shadows, there's no bright spots, because you're trying to key out a certain color. So the key is really, I would say, is more in the light kit than it is in the actual green screen that you use. Any other questions we're getting in the chat?
No, just a couple comments.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we've got our equipment. Now we're going to go cut the video. So these are my recommendations based on my workflow and things that I have found success in, for how to go about actually producing your video. And everything for me starts with the script. So my workflow, anytime I'm going to create a video, whether that's a voiceover animated video or a talking head, person on screen talking, the very first thing that I do is I script it out. So I want to know exactly what I'm going to say. And even for screen recordings, I'll do the exact same thing. So what exactly do I want to say? Start there and read it down. Figure out how long is this thing going to be? Does the flow make sense? Do I need to edit some words, go out and make some tweaks, whatever? But once the script is locked in, it's got the approvals that it needs to have, I know exactly what I'm going to say. Then I'll move on to a storyboard. And with storyboards, I am not a fancy person at all. I'm a horrible artist. If you ask me to draw something by hand, you're going to have no idea what it is. I'm really good at stick figures, but other than that, I'm not very good. So when I storyboard something out, it's as simple as explaining, like in text, what I anticipate to be happening while the voiceover is happening. And I'll give you an example of a storyboard. So this is something that I put together. I made some videos last year for Broadlawns Medical Center around community health. So this is all my storyboard really is, if you want an example of what that looks like. So I've got my script. So this is all the things that we're going to say, right? Got this approved. I worked with their chief medical officer to vet this and create this video. This video itself was actually a 1-hour presentation that he did that he wanted to condense into a video. So I actually was able to convert a 1-hour presentation into basically a 3.5-minute video for him. So we had the script all sorted out, and then I storyboarded it for him. So it's really simple. It's a table in a Word document. Here's the seed number. Here's the description of what I anticipate happening on the screen. And here's the voiceover that's going to go with that description. I used to not be a storyboarder, and then I got into enough videos without any plan, and it took me forever to realize, okay, I should probably think about this before I actually go in and cut something. So the more that you can storyboard, or at least have a general idea going into your video, the better it's going to be. I'd say there's probably a significant percentage of the time that I storyboard something, and then when I actually go into the video to make it, I do something different, but at least I've started with a plan is the way that I see it, at least. So your storyboard, and then the last thing that I would recommend is rehearsal. Most of us, good on you if you are not professional actors or voiceover artists. I would put myself in the not camp. So what can I do to negate some of that? If I'm going to be talking on camera, or I'm going to be doing a voiceover for a video, I want to have that thing down as crystal clear and know it top to bottom. I don't necessarily have to memorize it, but I need to be extremely familiar with it, how I plan to read it, so that when I go into the recording process, it's old hat. It's the same concept of, like, you go and watch a band play live and you're like, wow, they're locked in, they're great. Well, they rehearsed for a bazillion hours before they ever did that, or they performed that song 5,000 times. So they know it top to bottom. And that's the same advice I would give for any type of video that you're going to make. If I'm going to be on camera, I'll give you an example. The video that we created and we posted to promote this event today, I probably rehearsed that 1-minute video 30 to 40 times before I ever hit record on my camera to actually cut. I wanted to make sure it was good. Because I'm somebody that if I'm trying to think off the top of my head about what's coming next, I'm going to make a mistake and I have to start over again. So plan it all out to the best that you can. When you get to that actual production process, 90% of the battle with good professional video is the setup and the location. So are you filming somewhere with good light? What does the room sound like? Is there a lot of background noise? Is there a lot of reverb and echo in the room that we may need to account for? What's the background of your video look like? Do you have a big old window behind you that's casting a bunch of backlight that looks like garbage? All of those things, the more that we can do that up front and get that set up, the better it's going to be on the back end. Adobe products like Premiere Pro and After Effects have all sorts of different options available for like adjusting lighting and levels and all that stuff, but you can only go so far if the input is awful. So the more that you can do up front for scouting your location, your setup, making sure the sound is good, the better it's going to be in the long run. And the last thing I would tell you is around direction. So if you are the producer of this video, it is up to you to make sure you're getting what you need. So if you're working with talent, some random person that has volunteered to raise their hand to be in a video that's never been in a video before and they're uncomfortable, it's your job to help make that person feel comfortable. And if they do a take or they do something and you're like, I think we can do that better, ask them to do it again. That's the beauty of video production and audio production, is you can just stop, erase, and do it again with minimal effort. So the more comfortable you are in that space of coaching somebody through the process, giving them advice, helping them to the extent that you can, that is up to you. And I would highly recommend that you get comfortable doing that. And the last thing I would mention is the post-production side. So we've recorded it. Now, what are we going to do with it? And flow and variety of your video are key points for me. The research is mixed out there on what the ideal length for a video is, but most things I've seen have been around 3 to 5 minutes. That's about the Goldilocks zone for our attention span. You start to get over 5 minutes, it's very difficult to keep somebody's attention. Under 3 minutes, in my opinion, is okay. But if you're going to make a video that's a little on the longer side, that 3 to 5 minutes is the goal. If I'm cutting an animated video, like using Beyond or something, or even live action, I do it as well, is I try to have something happening on the screen every 3 to 5 seconds. So it doesn't have to be something fancy that's going on, but it could just be a cut to a different camera angle, or some text on screen, or some B-roll over it, or the mouse moving, or a call out showing up on a screen recording. Something happening, because if we're just asking our audience to sit there and listen, then we're lecturing them. We want to really guide their eye visually, and we want to make sure that that flows really well. So the more variety that you can have in your video that serves the purpose, not just variety for the sake of variety, but that serves a purpose, is going to be really important. And the last thing I would say is your output. Industry standard, most videos, .mp4 is the file extension for a lot of videos. .wmv, Windows Media Player file extension works as well. But I try to expert in the highest quality output that I can that is not going to destroy my storage. 4K videos are really great, but they are massive. Usually 1080, so full HD videos, 1920 by 1080 resolution are great. If you need to save some space, 720 pixels works as well. It's just a little bit more, not quite as high resolution. But maximize your output while also keeping conscious of your file size. And if file size is no extension, do everything in 4K or the highest resolution you possibly can.
Hey, Adam, got a question.
Yeah.
How do you accommodate recording, excuse me, when in the back of the room, but not directly connected to the microphone, to make sure the sound and the video is clear?
So let me make sure I heard that right. So how do you, you've got a video or a camera set up in the back of the room, you're presenting from the front of the room, and how do you make sure your audio is still good? You can hear it. Is that the question?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it was my question.
So my advice to that would be, get yourself an area microphone. So get something that you can plug in, maybe to your computer or to your phone. Like even a lavalier mic, let's say, are you recording on a phone or a tablet?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could get something for relatively inexpensive that just plugs into the lightning port or USB-C, depending on what your device is, that is a receiver. And then you can have a transmitter attached to you. So just buy a lavalier mic that would pick it up would be.
Oh,
would
well,
be
no,
advice.
like most of the time I'm doing it for a client. So they're speaking up front, or they have some student speaking, and I'm just recording in the back of the room. I'm not with them. So do I give them the transmitter and
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah.
But then that's a tough one, because the only advice that I would have is to get the camera as close to them as they can manage without it getting in the way.
So the shotgun one isn't the one to have. That isn't.
No, yeah, a shotgun mic or an area mic would work well also. It's just you got to make sure you've got a way to, if the phone's back here, to make sure that you've got it connected.
Oh, okay, so those are Bluetooth, like the lavaliers.
I'm sure that there are Bluetooth options out there that you can find.
Okay, I haven't looked them up yet, so okay. And what about I guess, yeah, the video, I guess still, yeah, depends on what I'm using.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, appreciate the question.
Okay. No problem.
Anything else in there, Melissa?
Not at the moment.
Okay, let me show you some examples and then we'll dig into Camtasia. So I want to give you a few different ways that I have used video in my training programs. So on the right side of the screen, you've actually got the all the equipment that I use to put it together. So the concept behind this storytelling video is I wanted to get people on camera, like sharing a story about how they used a stretch project or identified something that they needed to do better or needed to learn, and then what they did to go about learning it. So I cut this. This is actually the demo version of this series. So this is just me. But the way that I produced this was I basically set my iPhone up. I recorded on my phone. So I set my iPhone up, hit record on that. And then I set my Blue Yeti microphone up, recording the audio into my computer as well. Hit record on both of those, did my spiel, took the audio that I got from my Blue Yeti, brought it into Adobe Audition, mixed it, exported it, brought that audio into Vyond after I had storyboarded out and understand where my cutscenes are going to be in Vyond, because I wanted to interlace, like as the human is telling the story, there's animated characters acting out what the human is saying. Almost like if you've ever seen the Ricky Gervais show, they used to do this a lot where they have animated scenes acting out what people were saying. So put those cutscenes together in Vyond, export that video into Camtasia, and then lay everything on top of each other and edit a narrative together. All in, this video took me about 8 hours to make. And that's everything start to finish. But I won't play the whole thing, but I'll give you about 30 to 45 seconds of it so you can get an idea of kind of how this works and how it's set up. And as you're watching it, keep in mind that the audio that you're hearing was actually recorded and overdubbed onto the original video, the video I shot from my phone. My name is Adam Rich, and this is my learning story. So this is a story about how I began to build my network at Athene and focused on the core capability of building relationships. I started my career at Athene in April 2019, and just a few months into my time, we had our annual summer barbecue. And prior to joining Athene, I was with a fairly large insurance company, so the idea of shutting down the office and providing free food and free drinks and games, I thought was one of the coolest things that a company could do. So I was really looking forward to it, but I was also slightly terrified. So there you have it. Hopefully everybody able to hear that all right? Well, I'm sure the video is probably a little jumpy. I don't know how to correct that within Vyond or within Zoom, but that's kind of the general idea. And I really love this. I would love to build this out more. People love to hear stories about what other people do to learn and grow, to get ideas and stuff. And I think the concept is really good. I just haven't had time to invest in building a whole bunch more of these. But storytelling, great way to, video is a great medium for that. The next one I want to show you is a testimonial or interview style video. So the premise behind this one was I was creating a customer service training for our customer contact center. And I wanted to interview somebody to hear, basically for them to share their story about how they gained confidence or grew their confidence when they were taking calls. So this customer service training would happen during our new hire training process. So I found somebody that I could interview. I prepared a series of questions, and then was going to shoot it or going to put this together essentially like you would put together a documentary or a news story. So I'm just going to ask her these questions. I'm going to hear what she says, and I'm going to transcribe that. And then I'm going to make a narrative based on the sound bites that I like. So there might've been something she said at the end of the video that I actually want to use at the beginning. And that's kind of a nice way, why nonlinear video editing is so great, is you can do that sort of stuff. So my setup for this is I shot her, I did a multi-camera setup. So I had an iPad that was shooting straight ahead at her that I had her looking into the lens for. I had my iPhone set up on the side so that I could get an alternative angle as she was talking. She was recording in front of a window. So a window was on her left side. So I brought my light in to balance out that lighting on her right side. Yeah, she was, yeah. on her right side, and you'll be able to see it if you actually pay, look really closely at her face. You'll notice the color of the light is a little bit different on her left side than it is on her right side, but that's okay. Still looked good enough for me. And then I put all of this together in Adobe Premiere Pro. And I use Premiere Pro because the environment that we shot this in, I had a lavalier mic attached to her versus like overdubbing from an area mic. And it was a little bit noisy because I had her on the floor of the contact center. And I knew that if I was going to be chopping up this video and taking different sections, you would probably hear a fairly noticeable audio hit, or you'd be able to hear, oh, a cut was made in that spot. Premiere Pro has really good fine tuning you can do with crossfading audio. So I could zoom way in on the audio track in Premiere Pro, like way more zoomed in than I could get in Camtasia. And I could add a crossfade so it was just ever so slight that it would soften up those hits or those transitions. So once I had everything all put together, then it was essentially just lining up the audio tracks and then deciding where I wanted to cut between the side angle and the front angle. I also shot some B-roll from this. So I got, just took video of her working at her desk, whatever. I wish I had a steady cam for it. I just used my my iPad and held on to it. It did the job. So I'll play just a little bit of this so you can get an idea of how you might use or what a testimonial or interview style video might work.
My name is Alyssa Edwards. I started November 16th of 2000.
Maybe. Just gonna put a wrinkle in the plot if my internet decides it doesn't want to load this thing.
My name is Alyssa Edwards. I started November 16th of 2000.
All right, well, that's fun. I got an idea.
Training and that I had support. So I knew I don't.
So there's your front on, which was shot from the iPad. And then we'll cut so you can see what a little bit different angle might look like.
About the information.
So here's the side angle that I used on my iPhone, and then I used the black and white effect in Adobe Audition, or sorry, in Adobe Premiere Pro to colorize it. So you had a little bit of a distinction between the front on, which is in full color, to the side angle. And then you've also, again, got some B-roll looped over the top of that. So all in, this video didn't take actually that long to put together. It probably took longer on the front end to record it and then transcribe everything that she said, pull out the video clips I wanted to use and put them in order than it did to actually like produce the video from top to bottom. And I'm apologizing in advance for my dog who has decided to start barking all of a sudden.
I know.
All right, so let's keep it moving. I've got a couple more that I want to show you. Hopefully these work a little bit better than the last one. All right, sorry about that. Unless you want to hear a barking dog, then by all means. So the other one is a product demo. We talked a lot about how people like to use how-to videos and things like that. So this is my version of that. This is a screen recording I did in Camtasia, and I just did the voiceover with my Blue Yeti. What I love about Camtasia, if you're not familiar with the templates and the icons, lower third, motion graphics, things like that are in Camtasia, the library is crazy robust. I absolutely love it. So what you're going to see on this is when I did this script, there was like, to start out, there was things happening on the screen. And then for some unexplained reason, I decided that I'm going to do like 45 seconds of exposition about like things you had to know before you actually did the thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't just hold the camera or, like just have the screen blank with nothing going on in it. I've got to do something to keep it visually interesting. So I created a motion graphic little section on it to follow what the narration was saying. And that's kind of what you're looking at here. So I'll play you just a little bit so we get up into this point. But everything that you're seeing and hearing in this video was done in 100% in Camtasia. Oh, you guys, can I be honest with everybody for a second? I probably shouldn't be doing this as a presenter to just poison the well. But you know how like you can rehearse everything and practice everything and it works flawlessly and then you go do the thing and it stops working? Like that's where we're at today. So just throwing that out there.
There are two primary ways to access content in Shell.
And I would just send you a link to this video, but it's hosted on an internal website. So I cannot do that. And I apologize for that right now.
Adam, at least your audience, we've all been here. We all get this.
Yeah, it's true. I couldn't have a more
Green.
accommodating audience.
Or the filters along the left menu.
All right. So this is not going.
Although
to
the
be
majority of gems will be documents and wiki
perfect.
pages,
Let me just fast forward. So there we
keyword searches will default to pulling results from all libraries within your user group. But if you know the library,
Adam,
So
will
say-
it help if you turn your camera off? Will that
go.
help?
Thanks for helping me troubleshoot. Let me try.
content is housed, you can select that library either before or after running the search. If you have access to multiple libraries, pay close attention to your searches. When a specific library is not selected prior to running a search,
So you kind of get the idea. Great idea, Melissa. I should have thought of that earlier. So the
That was
idea
Kayla,
being,
not me. That was Kayla.
oh, yeah, thanks, Kayla. Appreciate it. Thanks for looking out. The general idea being that you can use icons and motion graphics, and because of Camtasia's, like, you don't have to keyframe. You can keyframe and custom animation things, but they have a lot of drag and drop behaviors that you can drop onto objects, which is really what I use for this. So I didn't have to do a lot of fine tuning or manually, setting an in point or an out point or adding a keyframe in a couple different places to manually animate it. I was just able to drag and drop and place stuff on top of it on my own. The last one I want to show you, and then we're going to jump into Camtasia, and I want to show you how you can build, you can use this multi-camera and overdubbed audio effect on your own, and that's an event promotion. So the way that I built this video is very similar to how I did that storytelling video in Beyond. And I just shot this in my basement, recorded the audio from my Blue Yeti into Adobe Audition, overdubbed that onto the video that I captured from my iPhone and my iPad, and then put it all together. So this is
Hello,
kind of what it
ATD
looks like.
Central Iowa. My name is Adam Rich, and I'd like to invite you to join the Tech SIG on Friday, October 7th for an interactive conversation about all things video. Now, if you're a living, breathing human being, you probably already know how powerful video can be as a way to deliver a message, inspire action, or help somebody learn something new. And video production is quickly becoming one of the... Hello, ATD.
So there you go. You kind of get the idea. So we've got multiple cameras that are on there. I've got a side camera, a front camera. I did a little cut in there to kind of scale up the video a little bit, which is the exact same shot. I just scaled it up a little bit. So I want to go into Camtasia and essentially rebuild this quickly for you because it's a pretty simple technique when you know essentially what you have to do for it. But before I do that, this was the setup. So you saw what was on the other side of the camera. Or what was in front of the camera. Here's what I was looking at as I was cutting this video. And a couple things that I want to point out here. I was shooting with a window on one side, so I used my light to kind of balance out the other side of my face. I had my iPhone set up on my tripod. I had my Yeti microphone propped up on a couple end tables to get a little bit closer to my mouth without getting in the way of the video. And then over here is my second camera, my iPad. And you'll notice that it is propped up by a package of dominoes, which are sitting on top of a subwoofer, which is sitting on top of an end table, and that's sitting on top of an ottoman. Because I needed to get it up high, but I had no other option for how to do it. So the setup is about as bootleg as you could possibly get, but the end product ended up looking really good. So you can do all of this on a budget. So I'm going to open up Camtasia, and we got about 15 minutes left. Yeah.
Now you showed us what it looked like, that screen. Can you go back to, so I can see, I need to see the before.
Yeah.
Hello, ATD Central.
Okay.
So there's the after.
Gotcha. Okay. I couldn't picture that since you went to the next slide.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So
Adam, I know you did that picture. Do you do like a picture or a test before that? So like, did you turn around and do a picture that so you could see like how the light was hitting and making sure that the shadows were even and all of that? Do you do like a test photo or a little?
I do test runs. So
Okay.
yeah, I'd get it all set. So I set up my iPhone first. So I'd hit record and go sit where I was going to sit, hang out for a second, move my arms a little bit, and then walk over and then play it back and see what that looked like. And then adjust. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to do it on the iPad. Same thing. Delete it, adjust till I got what I need.
Okay. And I've got a couple of questions in the chat for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Before you move on. Storage, so you're not taking up all your storage. Where do you, to save things? So you're not taking up all the storage.
I do it on OneDrive. So we've got unlimited space on our OneDrives for a lot of this stuff. We used to use external hard drives as well on in previous roles, but I know that's more frowned upon now, but typically some type of cloud storage is what I'll put most of this on.
How close do you need to be to your Yeti to have good audio quality?
It depends on the setup for it. So this Yeti, so the Blue Yeti microphone has multiple. I'm going to turn my camera back on so you can see this. You can see on the back of it has these multiple settings. And so I've got it set up so that it's capturing audio coming in the front and then any audio coming in the back. It's also got settings like a cardioid setting where it's only going to capture what's coming in directly into the front of it. It's got a 360 setting where it'll capture anything around the area. So for me, like if I'm doing it for that cardioid setting where I'm only getting what's coming in the front of it, then I'll get about 6 inches away from it. If I have it more on that, like either a 360 or this, figure 8 where it's getting the front and the back, usually I'll have it a little farther away. So right now it's about, I don't know, 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from me. And the audio is probably still picking up pretty clearly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. So a lot of trial and error is my expert advice. Record something, listen to what it sounds like and find it, then do it again until you're happy. All right. So let me jump in. I'm going to open up Camtasia and I'm going to show you essentially how this video can be made. So there's 2 techniques in here that I want to demonstrate. The first one is how to overdub audio, so how to record audio separately from your video and then just basically put it on top of your video. And the second one is how to create a multi-camera effect. So you shoot the video using 2 different cameras and how you can cut between those while making sure that your lips are still in sync, or what's happening on the camera visually is in sync with what's happening sound wise. So I'm going to bring in, first thing I'm going to do is bring in the front camera. So this is the original video right here. And actually, before I go any further, I am going to shut my video off one more time so that makes it a little bit easier to see. So here's what it sounds like. Here's the intro.
1, 2, 3.
So you got that little hit.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa.
And then the count-in. So the count-in is the key to all of this. So if you ever how they have like movie markers and 3, 2, or like right on the set, ready, snap, action. That little hit is what producers are using to line up the audio tracks, because a lot of the audio is captured separately from the video. So they got to make sure they line them up. So if we do that count-in, 1, 2, 3, clap, or a marker, whatever, we just get some type of hit, which you can see if I zoom in down here. Here's that 3, 2, 1, and that hit. That's what I'm going to use to line everything up. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the actual audio. So this is what I recorded in Adobe Premiere Pro at the exact same time. So before I started talking, hit record on my iPhone, record on my iPad, record on my computer, and then went into my spiel. So by doing this, by recording the audio in Adobe Audition or GarageBand or whatever program you're using, I could then go in and I could mix that audio. So I could make it, I could add a little bit of maybe bass to my voice if I need to EQ the treble or the mid in my voice. If I want to pull out some of the room noise, I can do that after the fact. So I can tweak my audio to make it sound even better by recording it separately and then overdubbing it on top of the original video. So what you notice here, this is the second track here that I've got currently highlighted is the audio recording I got from Adobe Audition. So the trick here is we're going to take the audio off of the original video and we're going to replace it with the audio from Adobe Audition. So all I have to do is just line up these hits to the best of my ability. So I'm going to zoom in. Am I zoomed in as I can go? So we'll use this as an example, and I'm going to play this and we'll see how close it sounds.
2, 3.
So it sounds like I'm getting just a little bit of a chorus effect. So I'm going to bring this over just a smidge more and we'll listen to that.
2, 3.
That sounds pretty close.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa.
There you go. So it's pretty much lined up. I've got my overdubbed audio lined up with my original video. And I'm going to mute the overdubbed audio and play just the original audio so you can hear the difference between using just my iPhone camera's microphone or using more of a professional mic. So here's the original.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa. My name is Adam Rich.
Okay. And then I'm going to mute that and I'm going to turn on my overdubbed.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa. My name is Adam Rich.
So there's one.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa. My name is Adam Rich.
Okay. And then one more time.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa. My name is Adam Rich.
So that second audio, that overdubbed audio is just a little bit fuller than what you would hear coming out of the camera microphone. So now that I've got my audio tracks lined up, all I'm going to do in Camtasia, I'm going to separate the audio and video track on my original video, and I'm just going to delete the audio track off of it. So now all I'm left with is the original video and the overdubbed audio.
Hello, ATD Central Iowa. My name is Adam Rich, and I'd like to invite...
Looks pretty darn good, or it looks pretty darn close. So super simple. So the next thing is we want to bring in that side camera because we want to kind of cut between the front angle and the side angle. So how do we do that? The exact same way that we overdub the audio is how we do this one. So I'm going to bring in the side camera. So this is what I filmed on my iPad. You notice that it's just a little bit lower resolution than my original video, which is fine. I'm just going to scale it up here so that it fills up the screen. And I'm going to turn this into a black and white video anyway, so it doesn't have to be crystal clear, in my opinion, to serve its purpose. So we've got the new audio. So this is from my iPad, and I'm going to just do the exact same thing. So I'm going to line up the audio track and listen to it, see if it sounds good.
1, 2, 3.
Sounds pretty good. I might do some more fine tuning if I had more time, but it's good for now. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to separate the audio track from the video track and just delete that. So now all I'm left with is my side angle, my front angle, and my new audio. And now comes the fun part. And this is where a storyboard comes in handy. So you can kind of decide, well, where do you actually want to make your cuts? We're just going to do this willy-nilly because it's more fun to do it willy-nilly. But before I do that, I'm going to colorize this. I'm going to make it black and white instead of in color so that there's some visual changes to that. So Camtasia is not as fun as Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro, you just drag a black and white effect onto the timeline or your clip. Can't do that in Camtasia. You have to add this color adjustment effect, and you notice it blows it out to begin with. So you have to do a little bit of tweaking on the brightness and contrast until you get what you're happy with. So that looks pretty good. I'll go with that. All right. So I've got everything in place now. I just have to decide where I'm going to make my cuts. And so I'm going to do this for this one right here. And we're just going to do really simple, maybe hold it for a tiny bit, just so you can get an idea of what this might look like. So if we play this back, so I'm going to have this front camera, and then it's going to cut for a second to the side camera, and then it's going to cut back again to the front camera.
For an interactive conversation about all things video. Now, if you're a living, breathing human being, you probably...
There you go. So simple effect. And all I have to do then from now on is just decide where else I want to make those little cuts. Super fun. So we just produced that was 3 minutes, a multi-camera video with overdubbed audio. And it's just fine tuning it from there. The last thing I want to mention are these pre-packaged templates that Camtasia has. So this, what you're seeing, this lower third kind of animation, and it actually animates on and then it animates off, is essentially a stock thing from the Camtasia library. Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects have these as well. But I essentially went into their library, looked at, I think it was an intro, and then pulled it down. So here's the slate intro. So it looks like this out of the box. So all I did then was come over, update my text in the title and subtitle, replace the logo, and then change the colors. That's it. Super, super simple to do, and it looks very professional. So you can either program that yourself if you're feeling saucy, or if you're like me and you're trying to do this in the least amount of time and look the best you can, these little templates are really great ways to do that. And then you can copy and paste these templates. Like if you set it up like this for this video, I could just, and I make another one for ATD Central Iowa and I want to use this lower third for it, I can just open this video file, copy this title, and then paste it into another project. So that is kind of the nuts and bolts of video production. So we talked about a lot of stuff today, getting started, showed you some examples of various ways that you can use video in your programs. And then we looked at that, how to create a multi-camera and overdubbed audio, video in Camtasia. So we got about 3 minutes left. What questions, comments, concerns, anything do you have that I can help answer for you in the remaining few minutes we have today?
Hi, Adam. I'm a video producer for American Equity. So video is my wheelhouse, but one thing I wanted to know how you do it, or if you have any advice, is sometimes we have in-person video, but sometimes we have a hybrid workforce. That's the nature of doing things now. So how do you incorporate like laptop videos or a hybrid video, or even just a fully remote employee if you're going to highlight them, or do something? What are some tips and tricks that you have to kind of achieve that goal?
So essentially you're asking somebody else to create, like to give you some content, but they're using only what they have available to make it. Was that what I'm hearing?
Essentially. I mean, well, so we do things where, I'll interview people in person, and then I'll interview people like over Teams or over Zoom. And there's always it's going to look different when I use professional cameras versus laptop. But what do you do for virtual video?
Work with what I have. Is essentially what it is. You're like I kind of mentioned, your input is going to dictate your output in a lot of cases. So if if your only option is just to record a Zoom meeting, and then work with what you have in there, or record somebody on camera in Zoom, you may be able to mess with it a little bit after the fact if you take it into a Premiere or a Camtasia or whatever, to just mess with the levels to try and get a little bit better picture from it, or potentially mix the audio a little bit, to take out some reverb, to take out some highs or lows or whatever you need to manipulate. But that's really the more direction that we can provide those folks before they begin, especially if they're doing it on their own, the better. But you're essentially going to have to live with what you get. So a non-answer to a question that you asked me, I'm gonna give as much direction as I can up front, say here's what I need from you, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast in the hybrid working. Thank you for answering the question. Yeah,
my pleasure. Yeah, and Riley said they've had people use their iPhones at another angle, but sometimes it's just kind of a guerrilla type of thing anyways. It is what it is, but you could use that as the aesthetic for the video if you need it as well. So I got about 1 minute left. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
I'll jump in and say this is awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah,
Thank
appreciate
you for being a part of our group as always.
Yep. And I am always more than happy to talk about this stuff with anybody. So my virtual door is always open. My email address, and we can put it in the chat. It's also in the presentation deck that we'll send out after the fact here. But feel free to reach out, even if it's just to bounce ideas, or, how would you potentially do this, or, feedback, whatever. I'm always more than happy to do that. So whatever I can do to make your video as great as it can be, I'm more than happy to.
Awesome. And the deck will probably not go out until next week, just so everybody knows, but I will get the deck sent out.
Perfect. Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for your time. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Everybody have a fabulous weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Again, we will have another Tech SIG on the 4th, and watch for information that will go out about what that topic is. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.